Okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Michigan City Board Sanitation meeting. Today's date, Wednesday, April the 22nd, 2020. I'd like to call to order the meeting. The roll we have here is Mr. Ettinger, Mr. Harris, Mr. Smith, and myself, and Attorney Meyer, present. I'd like to approve the minutes. Get a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes. Yes.
Just joined the conference.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, no opposed. Will there be any public comment?
Is there any public comment from anyone in the public? Doesn't sound like it, Gary.
Okay, I'd like to make mention that someone just got on the phone there. I forget who.
Jeff, was that you chiming in?
Yeah, Jeff's here.
Okay.
Okay, I'd like to make that he's present. Make mention that he's present in this meeting. We're going to go ahead and go in safety with Mr. McCoy. Mr. McCoy, are you there?
Yes, I am. Okay, alrighty. So, for the month of March, we had 2 recordable injuries. Both of them occurred in the refuse department. Both injuries occurred to the same employee. So, just a special note that before this first case, which occurred on the 12th of March, the district went 160 since the last reportable injury. And that's really a very good rate. We need to continue to build on that. Also, I'd like to mention that the Water Reclamation Department has not had a reportable since the 13th of August of last year. And so we've gone now 231 days without a reportable injury. That's through the end of March. And so on the 2 injuries that occurred, the refuse department loader was loading a piece of HDPE pipe into the back of the refuse truck, into the hopper, and he was trying to crush it. And a piece of plastic, or the HDPE pipe, came out off to one side and struck him in his face. And so he's recovered fully from that particular injury. But then on the 25th of the month, the same employee was bit by a stray dog while he was picking up some refuse that was around a refuse can, and he's still on light duty for that while his hand heals from the sutures that were required to close the wound. Since we couldn't locate the dog, the individual needed to have the rabies vaccinations and all that, and tetanus as well. So he's recovering well, doing well, and so moving on, we were able to start up the chlorination sulfonation system for the season with no incidents, which is outstanding. The maintenance department just continues to do an outstanding job. Working with the chlorination and sulfonation system, really appreciate all that they do in maintaining that system and operating that particular system. We started out the month with some knowledge of COVID-19 as it was evolving, and basically what we were working on in the district was trying to line up some of our spring training. In addition to that, we were beginning to work with the spring cleanup and working with the refuse department, street department, and developing their JSA and refining those JSAs to perform those different tasks. Well, as we all know, going through the early part of the month and then into where we are today, the focus has been quite a bit on COVID-19. And so what we've done is that we have, first of all, put out a considerable amount of information to all employees about the awareness of COVID-19, what causes it, how it's spread, and then what we need to do to protect ourselves, other people we work with, family members, community. And along with that was an effort that was done in parallel to make sure that we had the proper cleaning supplies and protective equipment, personal protective equipment for our employees. And I'm happy to report that we have adequate supplies of cleaning equipment, and we have adequate supplies of personal protective equipment. Just a big recognition of the work done by a couple individuals in the IT department, led by Andy Mechanic. Andy is doing what I would call, if we were doing the incident management system, incident command system, he would be in charge of logistics and have the supply unit. So if anyone needs any protective equipment, they go and see Andy or one of his other employees. We have strict inventory controls and checks so that we can make sure that we are distributing the safety equipment that they need, and at the same time making sure that we haven't depleted our inventory to an unacceptable level. So Andy and his team are doing an outstanding job keeping all that up to snuff. Really doing a great job. So a good bit of correspondence back and forth with employees have questions about can the virus be transmitted by clothing and on your shoes? Other questions about, will this sanitizer work? Will this cleaner work? Will this disinfectant work? So a number of questions answered all throughout the month and into this month related to those kinds of issues. So I think we're being extremely proactive. Information sent out quite frequently. In fact, today we focused on information from the CDC on how to clean and disinfect your work area. And so just a continual focus on different aspects of how we can protect ourselves, our fellow workers, and the community we're working with. And that's it, unless we have some questions.
I have one question. You can transfer that virus on your shoes, can't you?
It depends on what environment you're in, Gary. Gary, if you are taking care in a healthcare setting of individuals that may have contracted the disease, the answer is you need to have full protective ensemble. Full protective clothing, as you see in the on the television news that we see each night. However, for wastewater treatment workers and those of us that work in the utility industry, the hazard is low to very low. And this information has been confirmed and reconfirmed with CDC information, NIOSH information, and other sources. So it really depends, the bottom line is it depends on your potential exposure. If you're if you're treating patients who have the disease, then yes, you need to be fully protected. In our case, the answer is that protect social distancing, making sure that you're wearing a mask when you can't maintain social distancing, wearing a mask more frequently when you're out in the public, and also surface contact cleaning, and all the things that we've learned in the past month and a half.
Right. Okay.
Does that help out?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, sir.
Mike, are we going to go down to the financial with Scott?
No, we don't have any bids to open up. The next thing we had on there was item 8. I was just going to give a little bit of an update, a little more about some of the functions at the district. We took an aggressive approach on this COVID issue as soon as it became known that we needed to be safe and needed to protect ourselves. We had administrative staff and engineers and other type workers that could do some work from home. We had them immediately start working from home. As you know, we developed work from home policies and the work from home logs. Currently, we have 14 employees who are working from home most of the time or some of the time. We've got some lab people who are splitting some of their time between home and lab, and our engineers are coming in, and operation managers and so forth is coming in when necessary to do field work or do inspections and things like that. The office door we've been keeping pretty much locked to visitors. We got a doorbell that helps out. I've been coming in every day unless I'm out in the field working, and also Cheryl Bates, who's our bookkeeper, she's been coming in every day, and we've been staying away from each other. We don't even go in the hallway at the same time, so that's working out pretty well. Payroll is one of those issues that we've got a really good system on. People are coming in the evenings and then on Saturdays and Sundays to help work with payroll, and then a little bit on the day that we have to submit that stuff, which is every other Monday. That seems to be working out really well. Scotty Kistler's been picking up the mail for us by just going to the post office. I think he's doing that 3 days a week. And we did have one employee who was off. I don't think the employee had the COVID, actually. I think it was just some other issues, but since the person couldn't be tested, as you all know, if you watch the news, there's very limited testing available. The person could not be tested, so in an abundance of caution, we had that employee stay off work for 2 weeks. And the person's back now and is in good health and is fine. The other thing I wanted to say was that we're still issuing permits and getting receipts for permit applications, and we're meeting with the public when we have to, keeping our distance. We had 2 major issues happen since the last board meeting. I told you, I think at the last meeting, how we were working on our sludge inventory, how we wanted to make sure that we had our holding tank as empty as possible, just in case we had a bunch of people get sick at the plant, because that's kind of a bottleneck for us. Well, it turned out that it kind of caused us a little bit of an issue, because we were pumping down the secondary holding tank and our pumps failed. We have 2 transfer pumps, I believe. They both failed, and we got on the horn with a private contractor to see if he could haul our liquid sludge out, if we needed it, and we got really no return phone call or nothing. But our maintenance staff did an incredible job of hooking up a temporary, like a portable pump. They hooked it up and were able to control the flow rate on that and got the system back running with a temporary solution, and then until we could order some new pumps and get those in. So it was just another, I know Dan McCoy was talking about the maintenance staff, what a great job they did, but it was really another awesome job, and the operations staff and maintenance staff working together. The other issue we had was, I don't remember the exact date, I want to say one day last week, I was in the office still working. It was about 3:45, 20 to 4, and all of a sudden the lights went off, the power went out, and then it came back on. I didn't think too much of it. Well, it turned out we had a major power surge, and it totally fried some of our servers and different things like that. A couple computers and phone lines got damaged. The phones were all out, and again, Andy Metanek and his IT crew worked around the clock, literally around the clock, without exaggeration, to get the system back up and going, and I think we were back up and running the next afternoon with everything, and just another amazing job. So when the pressure's on at this place, you've got to get the job done, and those were 2 key things that happened. But other than that, I don't think we're really missing a beat with with the COVID-19. I think things are going well. The wastewater treatment plant seems to be operating exceptionally well, and everything else seems to be going pretty good. So I just wanted to give you that update. If there's any questions about our systems, our facilities?
I'm wondering, just thinking out loud, what do you suppose two pumps, what do you think the odds of two pumps failing at the same time are?
It's pretty high odds.
Is there an underlying reason, I guess, what are you guys thinking?
I don't really know all the details, Jeff, right now. I do have a summary report from Kevin Mansicle that I told myself 10 times I wanted to print out and bring to this meeting so I could read it, but I didn't do that. I will research it. I think what it had a little bit to do was with the fact that we pulled those tanks down. I think the tanks really, are in need of cleaning, and I think they may have been part of the cause, is like a lot of debris and stuff down in the bottom of those tanks. But I'll follow up on your question, and I'll send a report to the board, okay?
Michael? Yeah, I'm just wondering, it seems like odd that two pumps would fail. I mean,
Michael,
I don't know.
we got the two pumps. One pump failed a couple weeks before the first one, so they didn't fail at the same time.
Oh, okay, all right.
Any other questions?
Oh, okay. No. We're going to go ahead with the financial reports with Scott Kessler.
Hi, good evening. Hey, Michael, do I need to read all the cash balances, or can I just answer questions?
Normally you read the cash balances. Why don't you go ahead and read them, because we're on TV here, so in case the public wants to know what they are.
Okay.
Or I could read them if you want me to.
Yeah, okay. No, I can read them. I just wanted to make sure. All right, cash balances as of March 31st, 2020. The operating fund had $1,258,327.26. The improvement fund had $842,895.03. Vehicle replacement fund at $36,735.48, and the equipment replacement fund at $560,053.46, for a total in that bank account of $2,698,511.23. The Indian Springs and Whippoorwill projects had no balance as of the end of March 31st, 2020, and that's because we made the quarterly SRF payment on those projects. SRF debt reserve had $499,050.33, and the SRF bond and interest at $91,933.43, for a total in that account of $590,983.76. The stormwater fund had $463,200 even. Refuse had $754,606.87. Special revenue at $13,546.34. The levy excess of $8,522.14. The tax levy grant fund actually had a negative balance of $126,929.55, and I'll come back to that one in a minute. For a subtotal in that bank account of $1,112,945.80. The Carlick remediation fund at $387,726.21, for a total cash balance of $4,790,167 even. And just a few notes on the primary bank account for the operating and improvement. We actually had it last month by $240,000, and so far in April, the receipts have been similar to what we experienced last April. I'm a little worried about May and June as we get further into this COVID thing, but so far it's looking pretty good. I mean, we actually built up a little bit. And then on the tax levy grant fund, it's showing a negative balance in that particular account, even though the overall balance in the bank is, positive. And the reason is we're waiting on a reimbursement. We paid out on the Cheney Run project. We made a payment to HRP, and that's why it went negative. But we'll be getting that money back, hopefully by the end of April. So, and then I'll answer any questions on that.
Are there any questions? Okay, we're gonna go ahead and move into the project update.
Were you gonna say anything about the budget performance, Scott?
No, I didn't say anything. Anybody got any questions? The budget performance all looks pretty good. I mean, really, stormwater, we only have activity basically in June and December. Refuge is still looking pretty good. I mean, the bank account's a little lower than it was at this time last year, but we're still in pretty good shape. And then on the operating fund, we did make the insurance payment, so that's why it's kind of low, I'd say 20%, but overall they're all, under 25% of the expense budget for the year, which you would expect at the end of March. So any other questions on that?
No.
Okay, well, thank you.
All right, update on the project Cheney Run.
Okay, Cheney Run progress report is the IDNR recommended some modifications to the cross vein pending completion of the perimeter berm. Erosion control practices are in place and are being monitored. Vegetation berm is seeded and blanketed. The paved berm is about 90% complete, including the extension of the pedestrian bridge, including the maintenance access route that we approved at the last meeting, the change order for that. I went out there and it looked really good. It said substantial completion requiring heavy equipment is on schedule for being completed by the end of this month. A couple other updates about that. What we've been doing is we've been working in our maintenance easement that we have for the Cheney Run. We finally were able to get the agreement signed. I think I sent you the email to all the board members with GAF for the donation of the property. With the COVID-19 health emergency, they did not want to have to travel around in the New York City / New Jersey area to have the plat signed and stuff, so we modified the agreement to allow us what's called early access to the property. We are now able to work on all the property, and that's why we're making such good progress on the job. I went out there and looked at it myself one day last week. It really looks really nice. I think we're going to have a really great project when it's all done. So that's the progress report. Is there any questions about the progress?
No.
Okay, the first item that we had for for pay request was $168,577.20 is for the HRP, their pay request number 2. And it's been reviewed by the engineer and approved, and it's been reviewed by staff and myself, and verification form has been signed, and I'd ask for board approval.
Can we get a motion?
I'll make motion approved.
And I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
I no opposed.
Hey Gary, when we're doing these votes, maybe the person needs to say their name who is making the motions and who's seconding and so forth, so that Rachel can get that for the record, because normally we could tell who's talking, and she's usually here. And then also maybe you should just also ask if there's anyone opposed, just in case, you know what I mean, because you're not here to really chime in. The next thing we had on the agenda was milestone fence contract. This is part of the project in a sense, and we separated it out because we had to work on this agreement with the GAF and so forth. And we got the quotes in February. The project came in at $158,000. That was over our estimated budget of $150,000. We also, the contractor that sent that quote in was really not responsive because we asked for an aluminum fence and they quoted a steel fence. So we're working with Attorney Meyer. That allowed us to go out and look for some other quotes from other contractors. I contacted the original quoter and 2 other contractors to see if they could submit me quotes. And I received one viable quote from Milestone Fence Company in South Bend, Indiana, and they gave me a price, and I told them we really just can't do it for that price because it's too much, and with our budget and so forth. And I said, is there any way you could come down on the price? And they went back to their supplier and they said that they could come down on the price to $115,750. So this is well within our budget. I think that I would ask the board to allow us to approve this contract with Milestone Fence to install the fence portion of the GAF stormwater project. It's been reviewed by... Yeah, go ahead.
Could we get a motion?
Mr. Karas, I make a motion to approve.
Just hold up. Who was that, Hope?
Yes, it was Holt.
Okay. All in favor? Aye. Is there any that oppose? No opposed.
All right, the next thing that I had about this project is it's an email that I sent you on April 17th updating you about the trees and shrubs, and that portion of that contract is for the trees and shrubs was $9,945, and I've gone ahead and approved that contract since that's under my limit and so forth, and because of our previous resolution. So I just wanted to bring that to the board's attention. Do we need the board to ratify the contract, Mr. Meyer?
No.
Okay. All right, so I was letting you know that. The next thing that I had, I just sent an email out not too long ago. The engineer brought to me today, actually just this afternoon, that he's requesting another change order for the project in the amount of $14,395. It's for planting a floodplain and forested seed mix on an additional 3.75 acres of the project. I don't really need you to vote on this today. He said we wouldn't do the seeding until later in the summer or in the early fall. So I just wanted to put it in your packet, or just wanted to bring it up to your attention now. And I'll write a memo and so forth, and maybe we could have this up for a vote at the next meeting, okay? And then the next thing that we have is a update on the Carwick project, and I printed that out, but I guess I left it at the printer. So Mr. Stanford, can you give us the update on the Carwick project? Carwick dump site project?
Yeah. The earthwork's 100% done. The leachate collection system is 100% finished and continues to operate. Vegetation cover on the ground, 9 acres, is fully planted and approximately 70% established for inspection today. Flutters has planted approximately 40% of the trees, but some of the species that they need to plant have not yet arrived. They're being delayed. And when they come in, they will plant those trees.
All right, very good. And then... Okay, go ahead, Steve.
Arbor and Brian Deverona inspected the site today and found that it would be okay to remove the silk fence because we have 70% vegetation covered. But they're also recommending that we leave the security fence up to protect the site until the vegetation is better established. And the last thing is that Weaver completed their final survey work for the boundaries of the new driveways and turnaround areas, transformer pad, et cetera, and they're going to send those results out soon.
We also had another engineering firm, Wilcox Engineering, provided us with a free demonstration of a drone survey, and we had them do the Carwick site and the Cheney Run site, and they did that, when was that, last Thursday, I think it was, Steve?
Yes, sir.
So that worked out pretty well too. We're waiting on the final survey results, but it was new technology, and I guess they get really close with these drones, with these surveys. Is there any other questions about the Cheney Run dump site project?
No, sir.
Carwick, sorry, yeah, Carwick dump site project, yeah. The reason I get confused is we have this next project on the list, Cheney Run. It's called the Cheney Run Recreational Amenities, but it has a lot to do with recreational amenities that will be established on the Carwick site. That's one of the reasons I was looking at this in my hand, and I'm calling it Carwick. I'm calling it Cheney Run now also, like everybody else. A lot of people keep calling both sites the Cheney Run site, and it's one of those things that you got to be a little more careful with. But the update on the recreational amenities is they have coordinated and they will have prepared a preliminary design, 50% design ready by April 29th. On April 29th, we are going to have our second public informational outreach meeting. Unfortunately, with the COVID situation, it's going to have to be done by webinar, and that is scheduled for 1:00 p.m. on April 29th, 2020, at least at this time. Our last public meeting was on January 29th, 2020, so I guess we have every one of these meetings on the 29th day of the month, but they tried to have it on the 5th Wednesday of the month because they found that that's the day where there's very few preset scheduled meetings. So just so happened that both January and April had the 5th Wednesday. So I will send out an announcement to everybody, and obviously we'll get an announcement out to the public too about public engagement with the public engagement team for the recreational amenities. Any questions about that?
No, sir.
Okay, the next thing we have on the list is the Strebel Arm Ditch Sewer Crossing. This project is done, and for the most part, I guess, according to John Doyle. And we have a Woodruff pay request in the amount of $69,592.15. And it's been reviewed by the engineer and approved, and also reviewed by staff and myself, and the verification form has been signed. And I'd ask for the board to approve the Woodruff invoice number 80801R in the amount of $69,592.15.
Okay, can we get a motion?
Motion to approve from Jeff.
Second from Tim Smith.
All in favor?
Aye.
Will there be any that oppose? No
Hey,
opposed.
Michael, this is Scott. We may use, just so the board knows, we may use the improvement fund for this. I'm looking at the cash in the operating fund right now, but we do have $840,000 in the improvement fund, so this may be coming out of there. And if we decide to do that, I'll ask the board at the next meeting for their approval.
Very good point, Scott. The next thing we had on the Strebel Arm Ditch Crossing was the work that was to be done. We were trying to get an easement, and we could not get an easement from the people that were along the US Highway 20 there for the work, like a temporary easement. So that required them to remove some guardrail and put some guardrail back, and also we had to use a vac truck that Woodruff was not planning on having to use one of their vac trucks. And that total amount for the sanitary district came to $5,841.50 for change order number 1. I've reviewed this and I think it's something that the board should definitely approve, so I'm asking for board approval.
Michael, the district share is only $2,644.75.
Yeah, that's what I was getting ready to say, yeah.
Okay,
Shows it.
right, you're right.
Could we
It
get
shows it on the agenda.
I'm wrong. You're right, it's on the agenda. It's $2,644.75. The total change order amount was $5,841.50. So the district share that you're approving is $2,644.75 if you want to approve it.
Could we get a motion to approve it? The $2,644.75?
Motion to approve from Jeff.
Frank Harris, I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Will there be anybody who oppose? No opposed.
Okay, the next thing is some project updates on the North End capacity study and the South Gate neighborhood stormwater improvement and the Long Beach sewer. I'll start with the North End study. The sewer field work is 98% complete. Compilation of the field data has been completed with the survey boundaries. And the next steps are, after receiving the Michigan City Sanitary District authorization, they're going to provide an investigation of remaining manhole structures where sewer connectivity is in question. They sent us a note recently about some other manholes and sewers and stuff that they need us to do a little more work on. They'll complete that when they're done. Then they're going to, when they get the information from us, they'll complete their work. They're going to develop a hydraulic and model, and then engage in sub-consultant services as necessary to complete the modeling and capacity analysis for the district, and then complete the final report. So that project is moving along finally. And the Southgate Neighborhood Stormwater Improvements Project is also moving along. Most of the work is done. They just have to do some work with the rear yard fencing. The next step is D&M plans on removing the existing fencing and installing temporary fencing in the rear yards. That's the next step there. So that project's moving along pretty well too. Long Beach Sewer Project is, the SRF application was submitted along with a completed copy of the preliminary engineering report, which excluded the public hearing section because of the COVID. We can't have the public hearing. And the town of Long Beach wants to add 2 different items to the preliminary engineering report. That is, they want to do some potable water service on a line replacement on Lakeshore Drive, and they want to improve a stormwater dry well. If those are included, they will not be part of the SRF project. I repeat, will not be part of the project, but they're hoping to get some funding for that, so they wanted to include that into the PER. And once they hear back they'll move forward. SRF officials advised that we should try to have the public hearing within 30 days after the restrictions on the gathering of people is lifted by Governor Holcomb. Any questions on those 3 projects? Okay, moving forward. We've had this white ditch cleaning project in the mix for quite a while. We did receive the Army Corps of Engineer permit, the IDEM 401 water quality certification permit from IDEM that was received sometime in March. And then on April 14th, we received the Army Corps of Engineers permit to allow us to do the dredging in the area. We had received board approval back in July of 2019 to issue a request for quotes to have this work completed. However, We did not have the permits at that time, and as you remember, we had the delay with IDEM wanting to issue the 401 water quality certification permit because they said we were going to be impacting too many wetlands, and they asked us to minimize the project to make it a smaller area of service, which will be good for us because it won't be as costly. So I prepared this request for quotes, Steve prepared this request for quotes, reviewed it myself, Mr. Myers reviewed it, we believe it looks pretty good, and I put it in the board packet, and I guess I'd just like to ask for your approval again that we send out this request for quotes to dredge the White Ditch from 50 feet upstream of the Sandon Industries outfall from their stormwater pond to Friar Road. So if we could do that, get a request for, if we could get approval to issue this request for quotes, that would be greatly appreciated.
Mike, this is Frank Harris. I make a motion to approve.
This is Holt, I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Will there be any that will oppose? No opposed.
Okay, the next thing that we have on the agenda, I've talked about this a few times, is the Strebel the Strebel Pond Stormwater water facility to, I guess it's called a flood control facility is what it's always called. Everybody calls it Strebel Pond. It's like, I've heard it's the second most visited park in Michigan City, even though it's not a park. Obviously Washington Park being number one. But we received this, we entered into a professional service agreement with V3 to perform a evaluation of the existing maintenance plan that was provided when the facility was built back in 2010, and also to look at what needs to be done now. And they provided this vegetation restoration and maintenance plan, and I've read through it. I had a few comments that they made some changes, and I think that the plan looks really good, and I would ask the board, if necessary, to accept this plan, final acceptance of this restoration and maintenance plan.
Do anyone have questions?
I didn't copy the whole report. I just copied the executive summary and I think chapter 1 in your packets, or the information that I put on the web.
I'll make a motion to approve. Frank Harris.
Can we get a second?
Second, Tim Smith.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Will there be anybody that will oppose? No opposed.
Okay, thank you. Now that we've accepted this report and this plan as final, what it's asking us to do is to do some work with some minor dredging by the inlet, and some significant work with invasive species and restoration of the native species that were originally planted in that area. There is a request for proposal form that was included in this report that we can use, and I'd like to ask for board approval if we could send out a request for proposals to receive proposals from firms that could take on this vegetation restoration and some of this minor dredging. We may actually want to do it separately, but we may also want to do it together, because I don't know that the same company that would do the minor dredging would be the same company that would do the vegetation restoration, and we may even be able to do the dredging ourselves. But I'd like to ask the board for approval. We're getting a lot of concerned citizens are talking about the maintenance that needs to be done at Strebel Pond, and the Phragmites are really growing in heavily. This would be a three-year proposal, and the total cost, it's estimated for the first year, looks like about, $50,000, $60,000 and so forth. It's in your executive summary there. But I'd like the board to get the approval to send out this request for proposals, and we'll see how they come in, and then we'll see what we can do from there. So can I get a motion for that, please?
Ms. Frank Harris, so moved.
Can we get a second?
Jeff will second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Will there be anybody that oppose? No opposed.
All right, the next thing that I wanted to talk about, it's not on the original agenda, but that's our energy savings. I forgot to put that on the list. In April, our April bill, which we get early in the first part of the month, we saved $9,518 compared to what we would have paid in the last 2 years with the new rate. So that's not too bad. I did want to update the district or the board members on our ongoing work with ESG with their annual report. They sent us an annual report in September. As I've explained several times, we had some issues with that. We've sent them a couple of letters, and we've tried to see if we can get them to agree to a final offer because we just cannot accept the results that they've sent to us. And they replied back to us, I think it was April 9th. Ryan Byers and I have been working diligently on looking at their response and some of the questions that they had, and we're formulating another letter back to them to talk about the fact that we don't feel like we're meeting, that we're achieving the guaranteed savings that they said we were going to achieve. I mean, saving $9,500 a month, $10,000 a month, that's pretty nice, but we're really not hitting the mark that we were supposed to hit. So that's where we are right now. We're still putting some final touches on a second response back to them, maybe even a third response. So I'll update the board again, a little more details in the near future how that's going.
Sound good.
I think at one of the earlier meetings, and I think in October, the board agreed to allow myself and my staff in consultation with Mr. Meyer to work directly with ESG on trying to resolve this matter. Ultimately, if we do work on a resolution, ultimately we'd have to bring it to the board for your approval. So just wanted to make sure everybody understood that, okay? And then, is there any other questions about that? Then after that, we have the monthly reports from all the staff, which I'm sure that you find there's a lot of work going on here at the sanitary district. Was there any questions about the monthly reports or any comments about the monthly reports?
Yeah, I have one comment. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
All right, I just want to read something on one of the reports that was doing that really a tribute to what additionally went out at the district. A lot of times the board members don't get the opportunity to hear about it. But I'm just going to read this and something in it. It was off one of the reports.
You're kind of fading in and out a little bit, Holt.
Okay, hang on. I'm going to... Is this any better?
Maybe so.
How is this any better?
Yeah, it's better.
That is.
Okay. It was discussed that in the event of an emergency, more of the engineering and management team should be at least partially trained as practical operators. Steve, Stanford, Arbor Hamad, and myself, meaning Ryan, shadowed Pat Hines?
Yep.
While he demonstrated various tasks in the filter building and explained other routine functions of the operator's role in keeping the plant running. This was in preparation of the coronavirus limiting worker availability, and I just wanted to make an additional shout out to those guys taking just an unbelievably wonderful proactive measure in case, that we did have worker availability shortage. So great job on mentioning that in the report, so we could after that. Nice job, Steve and Arbor and Ryan. And others if they attended and just didn't get their names mentioned. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Holt. It's something that we've been trying to work on. It's my understanding that the town of North Vernon in southern Indiana, that every single person at their wastewater treatment plant is sick with the COVID. So I don't know what they're doing. So it's something that you got to be prepared for.
Wow. Well done.
And, you know, if we could only get one or two people to come in, but it's something we've talked about in the past, even before COVID, and it's just the thing that, you know, we've got a lot of people here and everyone has their roles, but at the same point in time, you need to, you know, be able to be diverse and be able to step in, because at the bottom line is, in our business, there's no stopping it. It comes at you and you got to keep treating it no matter what. You can't just shut it down. It's impossible. So thank you for the comments, Holt. I appreciate it. Can I read the tonnage report? I normally read that. Is that all right, Gary?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Mike.
Compact totals for March was 950 tons. Loose was 97 tons, and grits was 160 tons, for a grand total of 1,065 tons in March. And you can see the increase when we started doing a little bit of the spring cleanup. So that seems to be going pretty well, best that we can do. I also wanted to say that Mr. Jeffrey Wright pointed out to me that there was some updates that were needed for the Blue Swag report, and I spent literally 2 to 3 hours today working on updates to the Blue Swag report. I sent a copy to Jeff with the red line edits in there, and I should probably send that to the rest of the board members, but there's a lot of work on this Blue Swag report that seems to be a little bit behind the times. One of the things that happened is Jack, a person that normally handles this, his wife and him, they recently had a baby, so he was off for a while, so they had a different person putting this report together. I don't know if that's the reason or what, but thank you, Jeff, for pointing out the need for some updates to this, and I hope you appreciated all the work that I did in updating that report and providing that to you. And also I want to thank Arbor and Ryan for their hard work. They helped me with a lot of the information. So.
Well, no, I certainly appreciate you updating the report, Mike, but, you know, I'm sure you have higher things on your priority than updating that report, so whatever time you spend on it, I certainly appreciate it.
Well, thank you, and it's good to go through it. The Blue Swag meetings, or the Swag meetings, or Stormwater Advisory Group meetings are actually really, really good meetings. We really, actually some members of the public show up, and we really, hello? Hello?
Mike?
Yeah, are you still there? Okay. So it usually works very well, and we get some good information. So, but the report needs to be a little better in the next time. So that's all I had. I don't know. I guess Mr. Myers up next. Do you have anything, Jim? Maybe Jim's who we lost.
Yeah, that might be who we lost.
So we need to approve the revenue and tax claims. Do you want to ask for that, Gary?
Yes, I'd like to make like to get a motion for the tax claim.
Chris Blanchett, I'll make a motion.
Could we get a second?
I'll second. Tim Smith.
Jim?
Just joined the conference.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye. Aye.
Will there be anyone to oppose? No opposed.
Sounds like Mr. Myers back.
Hey,
Yeah,
Myers.
I cut off somehow or another.
Did you have anything you wanted to add, Jim? We were asking for your opinion for your item number 12, but you weren't there. So.
Just in the nick of time. No, I have nothing to add. I'll answer anybody's questions if you have any.
Will there be any questions?
I guess this is Holt. I just have one that's not for Kim, but for Mr. Kittler and Steve and Mr. Custer. Is there any kind of known or really unknown budgetary adjustments that we foresee or should plan for due to the COVID-19 virus in the form of our budget? That anybody could think of? And
the city sent something out earlier this week. They've asked me all this PPE that we bought, other costs that we've had to incur for people to work from home. They want to capture that, so I'm doing that now. And I think it sounds like the government may reimburse us for those types of costs. I'm not sure how this all works. But as far as our budget goes, with the property taxes kind of being delayed a little bit, I don't think it's really going to cause us an issue. I'm saying that this thing drags on into August and September. I'll try to put something together. Michael's really been keeping a close eye on receipts, which so far it looks like people aren't paying their bills yet. But come May, after this first stimulus money came out, I don't know what's going to happen. But I think we're good through at least September, October. And there are some things we can do.
If I could,
okay, great. I just wanted to get a feel to top of it, and that there is something that we need to plan for, that we proactive.
I'll give a better update next month.
if I could,
but our spending has been pretty good too. So
if I could add to that, Holt, that it looks like our revenues so far are down about maybe 10 to 20%. The latest number that we looked at actually looks a little bit better. And you got to be careful what you compare, because even last year, April of 19, I think was 9% lower than the first three, average of the first 3 months in 19. But as Scott was pointing out to me yesterday, the bills that we're receiving, or the money we're getting now for April, are for people that used water, in February and then received their bill in March, and then they're paying it for April. So certainly our revenues are certainly going to take a hit on the operating side, with all the restaurants being closed and the hotels and the blue chip casino and so forth. So I think I'm anticipating at least a 20 to 30, maybe even a 40% reduction in revenues. And we've been planning accordingly. We've been trying to limit overtime when we can. There's certain things that we have to do. We actually need to work overtime. And then we're gonna not do any hiring. We're not gonna hire anyone else, and we're gonna cut, we're talking about our beach techs and our interns this summer. We're still debating some of that. There's some value to bringing them on, and the cost isn't much, but we need to think about that. And then with the property taxes, we'll have to see, how that works out for stormwater and for the refuse department. Overall, if you take a broader look at it and you figure a 20% reduction, like Mr. Kistler said, and you can see the numbers for yourself, we've done a nice job here the last few months of building up our cash a little bit higher, and that's mainly because we don't, a lot of our projects are kind of coming to the end. And so I think we'll be all right on the operating side. If we have a 20% reduction, even say for 12 months, I think we'll have plenty of reserve capacity to be able to absorb that.
right, and one last point on all this is we still have that money in the improvement fund, and I'll try to get a hold of Mr. Meyer tomorrow and discuss if something like this, we could just revert that back to operating fund if we had to.
Yeah, I can answer that now. Of course, only on an emergency basis, where should we use it?
I can answer that question right now. The answer is yes.
Okay,
But
I just wanted to,
it needs to be done when it has to be done. Well, we don't.
yeah, and I don't really see us needing to do that, but just in case, we do have that money, so.
And there's other money, some of the funds, such as the special fund and the excess levy fund and the rainy day fund.
Right. Well, I've already moved the rainy day fund. And we did that a few months ago, so.
Okay, very good.
But that was 81,000, so.
Very good. One last thing, Doc, you mentioned as far as a potential reimbursement. I know that if, money's become available to the state, that as you said, you're going to be doing some additional tracking. I think that if we really stay on top of that tracking, that could really improve our likelihood should there become some reimbursement money available. And if we really have it broken down in details above and beyond our usual call of duty as far as the amounts, what it is, what more our costs are, et cetera, and as much detail as possible. Might take a little bit extra tracking, but might be well worth it when it comes time for reimbursement.
Yeah, well, Michael's really done a nice job on the Cheney Run stuff with the Delta Institute. So we're turning around these reimbursements pretty quick. Like the Brownfield grant, which we're administering for the city, we turn that around really fast. So I mean, pretty much.
I was talking about reimbursement from FEMA for costs due to COVID.
Correct.
Okay.
That is correct.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Meyer. I was going to.
Yeah, well, we are tracking that, and the city set up special accounts for all the various funds to track all those expenditures.
Okay.
So when we process an invoice, it gets coded, so it gets tracked right away. So anything we're spending. Now, they didn't set it up until last week, so we had some costs earlier that I'm going back now, and I've identified them all. I have to kind of reassign them right now. So, but we're in good shape.
Okay, very good, thank you.
And Holt, I'd like to also just take a second and add that, with all of this grant funding that we have, it really helps out our bottom line for these projects that we're doing. And, it's really fantastic. It helps out our operating fund with all this grant money that we've received and different things. And one other thing that we'll be doing here shortly is applying for a reimbursement from the IRS for a tax credit for our CNG usage, and we're going to be able to go back to 2018, and it looks like we might get somewhere around $10,000 or $15,000 a year reimbursement for our CNG use because it's a clean air, clean fuel technology, and we get reimbursed 50 cents for every gasoline gallon equivalent. So that's pretty good. So those types of things really help the bottom line at the end of the day.
Awesome.
Very good. Well, it's great that we're using our creativity in these unusual times, and I continue to hope that we continue to push to use our creativeness to stay on track.
Yeah.
All right, well, thank you.
Thank you, Michael.
Will there be anything else, Mike?
No, that's all I have.
Okay, I'd like to get a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I'll make a motion to adjourn the contest.
So we get a second?
Careful second.
All in favor? No opposed.
All right, thank you all. Have a good evening.